Thanks, Stephen. Minister of Justice and Correctional Services Ronald Lamola has tweeted that his department will seek to assist convicted Fees Must Fall activist Kanya Cekeshe with either an urgent application for presidential pardon or other legal remedies. For more on this, I'm joined by Chrispin Phiri. He's the spokesperson for the Department of Justice and Correctional Services. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Just want to confirm that this tweet is an official position of the department.
It is the tweet of the minister.
Okay, so the minister is going to assist with the presidential pardon or any other legal remedies.
He has offered this to other Fees Must Fall activists as well, and he's simply extending this gesture to Mr. Cekeshe and his legal team as well, that now that there's a competent conviction by the court, subject to an appeal as we now understand, but in the absence of an appeal, this is a remedy that is available for people who have been convicted of crimes which, for argument's sake, can be said to have been committed in the interests of society in general. And that's the measure that the minister has taken to say that there is this legal remedy that's available and we are able to extend it to yourselves if you're willing to have a look at it.
Talk us through, I know you've said in the interest of justice, but talk us through what needs to happen in order for that to be fulfilled and completed.
So it's an application that you'd have to make. There's a form that you fill in, and you'd have to then motivate as to why you deserve this presidential pardon. And then from there, the Ministry of Justice then presents it to the president, and then the president applies his mind as to whether this case before him does indeed meet the muster of a presidential pardon, and then he exercises his administrative power in that way.
Perhaps I'm trying to understand what would make the minister decide on this case in particular, because there is a view that there perhaps may be a dangerous precedent set, because some people are saying he may be bowing to public pressure.
This case is being used to explain to people that in the event where one has been convicted and you are able to illustrate that the reason for the activity that you're being convicted for is a much broader principle, much broader aspirations of society, then there is this process. So we think that it's a good opportunity for people to understand how presidential pardons work, and we think that we'll be able to educate society about presidential pardons. And as we speak currently, other people have applied for presidential pardons for other miscellaneous crimes as well. Other people come to the department asking for expungements, which is a process where you can get your criminal record wiped up after you've served a certain period of your sentence. So these are avenues that are available to the department, and we think that in this case, where the minister has been called upon by society, to do something in the Kanya Cekeshe matter, he was not able to do anything because, firstly, that was the province of the NPA to ensure that Mr. Cekeshe gets convicted or the matter is presented to court for conviction. And that's what you want. You want an NPA that is competent, that does its work without any fear or favor. But you also want the courts to be able to make the decision, and once a decision has been made, there are certain remedies that are available to society to say that even though we recognize that this is a crime, we understand how this crime occurred, and that's an element of our constitution. I think it sits at section 84 of our constitution, and so that's what we seek to bring to the attention of society through this case.
One would then ask the question about APLA prisoners who are still in prison for years on end. The former minister, Michael Masuta, promised the same kind of remedies. That was never done. So my question would be, what's happening with them, and is there a time frame? Because while a minister can say that they will assist someone, we don't know the time frame of this process.
Yes, well, we cannot be bound to a time frame at this stage because it is contingent on various factors. Firstly, ensuring that the information is gathered and this information is duly processed and then presented to the presidency. In the case of APLA prisoners, it's the exact same principle that applies. And again, as you've correctly said, previous ministers have said, apply for a presidential pardon and it will be duly considered. And that is the same thing that we're saying to Mr. Cekeshe and other Fees Must Fall activists who have been convicted.
Mm-hmm. So my question is, there's been frustration both on the side of the legal team and people like the EFF who've expressed frustration with the amount of time that the legal process has taken. There's also been a view that the law or the state is wielding punishment against Kanya Cekeshe in order to try and warn people away from protesting in certain spaces. What would your response to that be?
Look, the facts of the matter that it is a crime to, for argument's sake, burn a clinic because you want water. That is a crime and that is punishable. And you do want a justice system that is predictable, that will punish people who break the law. That is what we want with certainty. So there's no contest around that. But the second aspect of it is to say we're using this to wield state power against Mr. Cekeshe. I don't think is a correct insinuation. We've seen those insinuations. We will not gratify them with too much of a response other than to say that the law must take its course where an offence has been committed.
So there's also a confusion and a thought by Cekeshe's defence that he wasn't properly advised, and at the time that he said that he pleaded guilty, he didn't understand the import of that plea. How do you then ensure that the law is fair? And if this is the case and he was poorly advised and he was badly advised in order to plead guilty, and the state hasn't advanced that video evidence of him allegedly burning the vehicle, that there's been a miscarriage of justice?
Those are legal submissions which have been made to the court, and the court has duly considered them, and as we've seen today, has rejected those legal submissions. And that's what we'd want to see. Where possible, people must make their submissions and ensure that the court is able to take these into consideration so that the court can do its work, which is either to to convict or to denounce a decision to convict.
Chrispin Phiri, thanks so much for your time on SABC News, the spokesperson for the Department of Justice and Correctional Services.